What's up, headbangers? Today, I'm spinning the wax with Bask guitarist Ray Worth, and we're listening to The Dirty South by Drive-By Truckers. Don't go anywhere, it all starts right now. What's going on, my fellow metalheads, and welcome back to Spinning the Wax, where we listen to your favorite artists' favorite records. I'm your host, John Stay Puffed Garcia, the metal marshmallow, and your friendly neighborhood headbanger. Today, I'm stoked to welcome Ray Worth onto the show to play us a little something different. Ray plays guitar in Asheville's Bask, who combines psychedelic, post-prog, stoner rock with hints of Americana. Their new album, The Turning, is the most transcendent mix of this sound yet, and if you're into a band that sounds like a blend of Elder, Red Fang, Huntsman, and more, you should definitely dive into their catalog if you haven't done so already. In my opinion, their new album is just exceptionally good. Ray brings on an album from Alabama southern rock band Drive-By Truckers, 2004's The Dirty South. A mix of songs from Mike Cooley, Patterson Hood, and Jason Isbell, the album transports Ray to certain times throughout his life and helped him figure out not just the beauty in simple songwriting, but also the way of finding heaviness without being overtly brutal. It's how he and his bandmates try to write their songs to this very day. So, come along down to the Alabama Shoals with us, listen to Ray chat about Bask's evolution and how they've outdone themselves on The Turning, and lose yourself in the raw and rugged indie folk rock, good for hillbillies, rockers, moonshiners, and headbangers alike. My friends, this is episode 26 of Spinning the Wax, where Bask's Ray Worth listens to Drive-By Truckers, The Dirty South. Please welcome Ray Worth to Spinning the Wax. Ray, it's so good to have you on. How are you doing today, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing good. It's Friday. I got my ass kicked this week, and I'm looking forward to starting it off proper with you.
I feel it. Well, hopefully you can get about like 10 or 12 more of those in you by the end of the weekend and just to relax and have a good one. Because, it just, along with everybody, on top of everything else going on in the world, it's like I get to the end of the week nowadays, and I swear since like, I don't know, August, it's been like, man, this week has been a fucking long ass year.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kicking it off right. So
Yeah, man. So, always before we get into the record and everything like that, which will be a nice departure from the show in a good way, catch me up on the last little bit, man, because The Turning came out to what seems to me from this side of the screen to really great acclaim and really got Bask in the names of in the ears of a lot of people as well. And then you guys just went on a tour as well. So we'll talk about the creation of the record in a little bit, but how has the post-release been for you and your anxiety, and what can you tell us about the tour to support that record?
yeah, the word I find that I keep using in these is like kind of therapeutic.
Mm,
There was just like so much build up to this, so much uncertainty, and so many life changes kind of throughout, the writing process and then recording. So it just feels really, really good. I feel like probably about 35% lighter than
mm,
I feel like I've felt in the last year or two.
yeah.
So it feels really good. Response has been awesome. Just yeah, definitely means a lot to all of us. Tour was solid. We had a pretty notable show in our hometown, which is like our big room called the Orange Pill here in
Mm.
Asheville, and brought in auxiliary musicians, had a cello player, had a horn player, just did it kind of exactly like we did on the record, and then pretty much made our way up to Maine and back. So yeah, been back home for a couple weeks now and settling back in.
How did it feel to get those songs out in front of people? Because I imagine, and we'll get into this too, because I know that, it's a long time between records for a lot of different reasons, right? And none of them very, very good. So I imagine that you probably had, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine that a lot of those songs or parts of them had been around in your minds or in the practice room for a little bit. And how did it feel to get those songs out to everybody and like feel them, especially when you bring in the auxiliary musicians to really have it feel like how you guys wrote it?
Yeah, there's like these moments that I feel like, as a musician, you're always kind of chasing, whether it's like that festival play in Europe or just like a really sentimental show here. And so kind of the same thing during the writing process and the recording, there's like that moment. You've done all the pre-production, you've like annoyed the hell out of each other over obsessing all the little nuances of the song. And then
Hmm.
you're in the studio and you hear that first playback, and it just like it's where it all kind of like comes together. And that's like when it becomes, and then the next step after that is like when you hold the record, once you get
Hmm.
it. And I'm so addicted to that feeling of like the fact that something can start from up here and then you translate it through your hands and your other band members, and then there's the art, and then there's the mastering, and then there's the approving the presses, and then you get to hold the damn thing like in your hand that
Yeah.
started from your brain. And there's I don't know, that's just what I chase in life.
It's magic, man. Stephen King always talks about how writing is telepathy. I think that can match for music as well, as far as like, the feelings or emotions or whatever that you're like, I want people to feel this or react this way. And then, they do, or they react in a completely different way that you weren't pretending to. But yeah, we talk about that a lot here, just the magic of the, undefinable and intangible becoming something that you not only hold in your hand, but then can share with other people as well.
Yeah, yeah, I get the same feeling when I order a box of t-shirts and I get to hold up a t-shirt that I designed or something like that, and it's just like, yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's so good, man. Well, I love to hear that, dude, and hopefully just more good things on the horizon for y'all. But we can get into that in a little bit because we are here to listen to a record, to talk about it, and interweave it in between your musical journey and everything like that. So today, as I mentioned, I mean, there are no rules on this show, so it's not like people can not bring in different genres or other things like that. But generally, sometimes people stick to like the rock and metal and everything like that. But knowing your band, I think that this release and this band and stuff like that will be like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense for like a lot of people. So tell us about the drive-by truckers and the Dirty South, and the I guess for people that may not have heard about this band or don't know too much about them, the dyed-in-the-wool metalheads being like, what the fuck is that? So why did you choose this record, and what can you tell us about this band?
I love this record.
Fuck yes, there it is,
For
everybody.
just for yeah, it like it checks so many boxes for me. Like the sentimental, like the era that I was in my life when this came in. I was like fortunate enough to see them on the Dirty South tour
Whoa.
with my wife down in Atlanta, and just been a band that I've been following ever since. And even like tonally, like this was like that, and Decoration Day was like prime like Jason Isbell era for
Yeah.
me. I feel like Patterson Hood is like right in there too. And then like I'm pretty sure the late Wes Freed doing the art. And it just like it feels so cohesive in so many ways. And depending on the song that's in the record, I'm teleported to a place and a time in my life. Like road tripping. Oh, this one reminds me of Florida orange groves. Oh, this one reminds me of like my college house party, drinking way too much whiskey, like late on Saturday nights. Yeah, and so it's just like every song feels just like it just takes me to a place that is warm and rewarding, and just the flat out inspiration that comes from the record on, tones on guitars and how I want to feel it's like a goal to translate that into like a heavier element. And
Yeah.
I think that like if you are a Bass fan, if you were to listen to this record, you'd be like,
Yeah, exactly.
okay,
Exactly.
I get it. You know.
Yeah, there's so many things I want to talk about here, and I'm glad that you brought a lot of it up. But I imagine we're probably around the similar age, same generation, and something about these like early to mid 2000s records. Whenever you like latched onto something around there, it's just again because I have those same things where it's like I'll hear something and just like instantly I'm in a
Yeah.
spot of my life that I'm not in anymore. And what was interesting too is so I don't have a lot of experience or history with the drive-by truckers other than like know the name, all that other stuff, and I completely fucking forgot that Jason Isbell was in this band
Mhm.
for a while because living in Nashville where he's at now and working
Right.
at the old the newspaper in town for a little bit, we were writing about him quite a little bit, and not exactly the craziest fan of his solo stuff in the 400 unit. I've got to like pick and choose depending on what he's singing about. But there's some stuff in here though that you're like, God damn, man, that motherfucker was like fucking pug rocker at some point or something like that, you know?
Dude, I know. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that early Jason Isbell stuff, like whether it's like Outfit on Decoration Day or Goddamn Lonely Love over here on here. Like, I'm glad to say that I got to see Jason Isbell before he lost all of his weight and fixed his teeth.
Yeah, back in the day,
And
yeah.
I love that era of Isbell. So.
Yeah. So before we get into this, like, what was your musical journey with this band? Like, were you into heavy stuff while finding this, or was this kind of like I guess what was your like musical journey with that? And I'll have another question about that a little bit, but enlighten me.
Yeah, pretty much like raised in a metal slash, well, more like rock slash country household.
Okay.
My dad's first album he gave me was like Ride the Lightning and Appetite for Destruction. But then my grandpa was like way into like country and stuff. So those individuals were definitely like an influence on the tone of that. And I lived in this tiny Civil War town called
Mhm.
Lexington, Virginia. And I remember hearing like when I was in high school that some frat had booked this like super badass like southern rock band from like Athens. And all my friends were kind of hyping it up and then yeah, I remember kind of pseudo sneaking into that being way too young
Mm.
and seeing them super super tiny in this like shitty frat kind of environment. And then I was just like, whoa. But then it, definitely all came to head being able to see him on Dirty South tour. So yeah, that's kind of how I found out about it, how it connected, and the dirty guitars, just the imagery, and the kind of like, drunken country rock, like, like even like the first chord of this, like on the record, you can tell they're like hitting the hell out of it, and then the guitar kind of warbles before it, intonates, and
Yeah.
that just like I love that. I love that so much.
There's so much rawness in this record, whether it's like the tubes and the amps feeling like they're about to burst at any moment from the tone, or even I have yeah, I will admit there are some parts of this record with the vocals where I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that, I can't do it. But other parts of it, you're like, no, how raw and kind of like almost off key it is, just works so well with what
Great.
they're singing and stuff like that. So it's kind of one of those things as far as like it's all of the sum of its parts kind of add up to this like really incredible thing. But I wrote down in my notes when I was listening to this too, it's like kind of like Roadhouse music, like you were talking about. Like you can see, like if it were Blues Brothers, they had the chain link fence in front of the stage or something like that, while the bottles are being thrown and shit
Yeah.
like that.
So that was definitely like my college house was like that, except obviously not a live band, but just us blaring the record.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, man. Well, do you have anything else that you want to say about this record before we jump into it?
No, I guess we'll kind of just like kind of go through it. I feel like I already kind of touched on the sentimental points and the fact
Yeah.
that I got to see it kind of live. And probably as we go through it, I'll probably be like, oh, this is the one that reminds me of Florida, or oh, this one reminds me of this. And yeah, so, but yeah, solid record. I really appreciate you putting the time into it too.
Yeah, no problem. Like I, have never had a history with country music or anything like that, but obviously from living in Nashville for over a decade, some of the good stuff starts to kind of seep into your brain a little bit, and this kind of gets right up along in there because as far as like contemporary stuff, Sturgill Simpson, I'm a big fan of his stuff, and we were talking about Jason Isbell. I actually Amanda Shire's new record is somewhere in a post office truck on its way to my house
Oh
right
yeah,
now as it's coming out because I love her latest stuff.
cool.
And yeah, we'll talk about some of the other bands that with the folk elements and stuff like that, and like the rock elements that. I got into as it goes into, but that's also like why I love doing this show is because it gets to introduce me to stuff that I may not have come around to just on my own journey.
Exactly. And that's why I love like talent buying, which is like my day job.
Yeah.
It's like I get forced into, I have to listen to so many things I would never listen to. And I love that feeling where I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I get super pumped on it and I get obsessed on it. And then next thing you know, in my brain, they're huge. And then I'm like seeing them in a 200 cap room. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
noted.
Yeah, man, it's great. So this is The Dirty South by the Drive-By Truckers in 3, 2, 1, play. It sounds like they just like dropped the guitar, you know?
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of that rawness of it that you were talking about, you know?
Going back to what you're talking about as far as your father was into, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, and then your grandfather is into more country music and stuff like that. I think there is so much crossover between those two, especially when you get down to the nitty-gritty of just like a rock and roll song. There's so much, that you can take from, an old Johnny Cash song or an old, Waylon Jennings song versus a fucking like Guns N' Roses type of shit, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like just as easily you can hear a country picker on a telly bend a note just like you would Slash and Guns N' Roses. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Except it's going to have, maybe a little bit more twang to it. But I feel like there's just a lot of crossover, and that's something I feel like kind of spent a lot of my, I guess, whatever, musical career seeing how to blend those two as cohesively and intentionally as possible.
Yeah, which is something I think Bask does extremely well, given the fact that, it's not like, oh, this is like a metal country band, or like, oh, this is a band that has like progressive in country. I know that the Americana thing comes through, but I feel like that's more of the, choice of instruments and style as opposed to just trying to just like jam three chords and the truth into like a really heavy breakdown song or something like that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's got to have intent. Like I'm not looking to write songs, not a mashup of riffs. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
everything needs to have its purpose, and we all do a really good job, like all five of us, of being like, okay, does this serve the song? That's we ask that all the time. Well, yeah, but I think that this is boring to play. But does it serve the song? I understand it's boring, maybe you for a musician, but
Hmm.
does it serve the song? Does it allow? It's not always about where you put the notes, but it's about where you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like with jazz, like the notes that you don't play, but with the band is, s- has it so much space, I guess, as Bask does. I feel like that is such a, push and pull of that, especially when you're as a musician in the kind of fog of creating and everything like that. Because I'll talk to a lot of musicians, especially who play Doom, talking about like, we try and ride the riff as long as we can, and sometimes it feels way too long in practice or it feels way too long on stage, but then sometimes we get into it and it's there. And I guess how have you guys developed the space that you put in with the music for either the keys or the atmosphere or the kind of maybe a slower guitar solo, or even sometimes just like letting the song breathe for the listener? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that that's part of like we've never sought out to be a brutal band. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're
Yeah.
not here
Yeah.
to onslaught you for 40 minutes on an album. We like our heavier parts to sound heavier because we intentionally wrote in a soft interlude beforehand. That's
Hmm.
what's going to make it, kind of more dynamic. And dynamics are always very, very important to us. And we want each song to feel like like a journey, like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe you're sprinting during this part and now you're resting and now you're fighting a giant. So,
I hadn't been too familiar with Basque in the past, but even from just like listening to The Turning from 3 or any of the other albums that you guys have done before, it definitely feels like, The Turning itself as a name is very apt for this band, because it's not like you're doing anything that the band hasn't necessarily done before or that like isn't in your DNA, but just taking so many parts of all of those things and making them like a little bit more, so as you're almost like turning into yourselves a little bit more. I don't know. Is that, I don't
I
know
like
if you
that.
guys
That's
like,
cool.
yeah,
I'm into
I'm just
that.
like waxing
Yeah.
poetic a little bit. I don't know if that crossed your mind while you were thinking about the record or anything like that, but
Yeah, I would definitely say to maybe, kind of reiterate what you're saying. Like this album feels like the most unified that Bask has ever been.
yes.
It's like, yeah, maybe it took 10 years, but I feel like we really, really kind of found ourselves on this one. And we were all can stand on a platform, and be like, we're really proud of this one. Like we
Yeah.
really, really like it. Yeah, it came out the way we wanted, and I think that it's kind of reiterates a point that like sometimes when you just obsess over things, that sometimes it can work out. And so that's a little bit how this one feels. Is we beat the dog shit out of like every single riff and song and yeah, enough where like we have this like kind of joke where it's like once we start hating the songs, then they're good enough for the studio.
That's how you know that it's good. All right.
Yeah, that's how we
Fuck
know we're
yeah.
like tight on it when we're like, oh, I fucking hate playing this one. All right, just do it. Let's just do it. And then we're like, okay, now it's time to go in the studio because we got this. We got it locked in now.
I think that that's so funny. And like to another point from what you said about like taking 10 years to find your sound or whatever, I think that's just par for the course for heavier bands nowadays. It just like takes that long. But also, I think that's a testament to just trying to find that sound and stick with it. And even knowing that, okay, once you release your first record, yeah, even though you did all that work, the beginning's done, you're still not fucking done. And you have no idea how long it's going to take before your stuff
Right.
starts to kind of sound the way that you sounded in your head. And from most artists I talk to, it's usually after like the second or third record is when they start to like, okay, I kind of feel like I understand where we're going now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like my two favorites, I would say, is Rainbow Beyond and this one.
Yeah,
As far as just how they turned out and where, I feel like we wanted ourselves to be. Other members would have different opinions, but
sure.
I love like the lushness from that record, and then I love how this one just, yeah, it's just all of us at our best. So.
I agree. And speaking of that, how do you like? I imagine that your bandmates' tastes in music is also like wide ranging and various and stuff like that.
And
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And it's like I really think that it's that push and pull between like common things you'll hear in the practice space is I don't think that that's heavy enough. And then we'll be like, well, okay, well here's why. Or this one will be like, oh, well, I think that this one needs more breath, or this needs like maybe a little bit extra twang on it, or oh hey, really step up pedal steel here, or oh I'm kind of hearing this weird like banjo roll thing in this song. Maybe it's on guitar, maybe it's not on guitar. No, it sounds badass on banjo. Stick to that. So yeah, everything from like gosh, yeah, a lot of folk influences, a lot of bluegrass and country influences, a lot of death metal and black metal and instrumental post rock. I feel like you can kind of probably maybe not the black metal, but you can hear like all those little sprinkles of influences in our songwriting.
it's one of those things where like someone will listen to this. I will say like, oh, I hear like these five bands in it, and I'm sure someone else would be like, oh, but I also hear these five bands in it that you didn't even mention
Yeah.
whatsoever, just because of the fact that there's so many things going in, and it becomes its own one thing that depending on your lived experience, you're gonna hear different ingredients of it. This song Tornadoes, a very emotional song that the refrain about like it sounded like a train. As someone who's gone through tornadoes and stuff like that, it's like yeah, that's what most people say about that. A very very poignant song, I think.
Yeah, it's that song never actually I listened to this record like twice like within the last few days just to kind
Cool.
of like refresh myself before we
Sure.
got in here. And it's weird how it kind of speaks to also the beauty of music of how songs can change their sentiment for individuals over time. And
Yeah.
this one kind of reiterates that as one who had never been through a natural disaster, can't say I
Mm-hmm.
like terribly related to tornadoes. I wasn't raised in the Midwest or anything like that, but listening to the song the last like couple days, I found myself like, maybe getting a little touch of emotional because, just a year ago, we experienced the first natural disaster I've ever experienced. And so
Yeah.
hearing those lyrics and kind of relating that you can, again, the rawness, the sincerity, and how genuine all that is, yeah, it just kind of resonated with me on a level that it never has before. And I love, like that just speaks to the beauty of music and how it can even, the sentiment can morph over time. And I don't know if I entirely like realized that until a few days ago. That was prompted by this pod. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I fucking love that. And yeah, that's again the beauty of music and the actual physical idea of like manifesting an album, right? Because we're in a instant gratification universe where we just like consume and throw away. I mean, as guilty of it as anybody, right? It's just kind of how it is. But
Yeah.
those things that stay with you and through the life that are constant, but then you look at it from a different perspective. Like maybe you heard a song before you had a kid, now you're looking at a completely different view now
Right.
that you're like a parent or something like that. So
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm not a parent, but
neither,
that's a great analogy.
yeah,
Yeah.
neither am I. It was just the easiest thing that I could think of. But since you brought it up, man, it has been about a year since Hurricane Helene. How are you, your family, and your loved ones, and the band and everything doing after that? Because that was some really really scary shit, dude.
Yeah. A year later, I feel like I feel like we're a strong community. I feel like more united and more rooted in Asheville than maybe I even felt beforehand, to be
Mm,
honest.
yeah.
Just seeing that beauty of the community come together, and I've been noticing because like literally tonight is like the exact 1 year.
Oh wow.
And so I've been seeing a lot of things pop up online, and yeah, it's sometimes it's hard,
Yeah.
to kind of refresh on that. But there's a lot of community events happening this weekend as well, just to like kind of bring us all back together and kind of remind Asheville, just how strong and resilient that I feel like we are. And I met neighbors that I'd never met before. I
Hmm.
had random strangers dropping off supplies who I'd never met before, and yeah, obviously super stressful. And I know from a bass perspective, we lost our practice space, our gear got flooded. But we bounced back, and got all that sorted. And so that's like touches in with the therapeutic nature that comes with this release, because this was like forged in like all of that bullshit, like right in the middle. And so
Yeah.
just feeling it like, oh God, okay, cool. It's public, and then to have like such good response, it feels really, really good. And then
Yeah.
I was just chatting this morning, and it doesn't even feel like a year ago in a weird way. It feels like it was like 4 days ago and 7 years ago at the same time.
I know
I
exactly
don't know
what you
that. I've
mean.
never had that feeling before, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that I have that exact same feeling when, and sometimes it's like a distant memory, like, oh, I can hardly believe it happened. But during 2020, there was a tornado that went through just like right down Main Street of Nashville and killed
Yeah.
a couple people here. One of my friends lost their apartment. Another one of my friends' whole like half of his house was gone, and all this other stuff, right? And the seeing the community come together like that, and like neighbors who you've never met, and all that
Yeah,
stuff. It is like heartening, but also it's like, man, I wish this didn't take one of these things to do this and everything like that. But
for sure.
yeah, how far along was the album when all of that happened? Was that like, were you guys getting still in the middle of writing? Were you getting ready to record? Like, how did that affect things?
So it was tracked. We had just finished tracking, and then maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that is when the hurricane came. We were scheduled to go to Europe, come right back from Europe, and then mix and master the record. We had to cancel Europe, it was just
Hmm.
like obviously way too much going on.
Yeah.
So canceled Europe, and then had to like push back the mixing, push back the mastering, because like, didn't have electricity for 10 days. Downtown didn't have water for like 3 months, which is like insane,
Just crazy.
Yeah, I tell this story where I saw a sign during that time that said in a bathroom that said "Wash hands at own risk," and
Jesus Christ.
I've never seen that sign before. I'm
Yeah,
like,
and
I've never
hopefully you
seen
never
that
will
sign.
see that again. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, what does the, oh, wow, okay, here we are. And even I remember like I was so excited to get back out, and I just wanted to show like local businesses some love. Go to like a nice restaurant, something you would dump whatever, $200-300 on, and
Hmm.
it's all on paper plates in Dixie cups because there's no water. Yeah, so it's like that was wild. But yeah, a
Did
year
you get the
later.
Instagram photo of like the incredible meal on the fucking paper plate?
Oh, I should have. Yeah, no, I
Okay.
did, but I should have. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, but a year later, seeing Asheville kind of bounce back, it was really kind of refreshing for spring to come and kind of cover up all of our scars per se,
Yeah.
and it was like pretty symbolic in regards to like spring and growth. So that felt really good. I feel like a lot of people in and around Asheville was like really leaning into their gardens and hiking and just okay, we did it, we're here. this is the nice reminder of how beautiful this place is because for, a hurricane to hit like during fall and then lead you right into 4 or 5 months of winter, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
all right. So,
Well,
so yeah,
I'm glad that y'all made it through and that things are up. That's great to hear, dude. So the lyrics across this record, this one specifically, I said that all them politicians, they all lie in sacks of shit. They say better days upon us, but it's sucking left hand tit. Just like left hind tit, just like fucking
yeah.
so good. It just like sums up the whole entire song.
And that touches on like the rawness. Like that could easily be a punk rock song lyric.
Yeah.
Easily, no problem. You know what I mean? Like, someone could say that and then stage dive, right afterwards into it.
Yeah.
It could totally work. We're always trying to like find those crossover bands that we would like love to tour with or try to like collect on dates because I feel like Bask is a little bit more for the progressive metalhead. I mean, obviously, I love my like caveman Neanderthal doom just as much as the next guy,
Yep.
but it's not what I want to listen to all the time.
Of
You know what
course,
I mean?
yeah.
For sure. So yeah, so like yeah, definitely more for the progressive individual who wants to be a little bit more outside the box. And I find that musically that's what I seek too. Like, oh, you're like lining up this like crazy Middle Eastern elements with like death metal. I want to hear that,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
yeah, oh, you're like combining, like what Murder by Death does is like those strong folk kind of indie elements, like kind of all hanging in those like murder ballad-y kind of tones and
Yeah.
seem like I'm here for that. I want to hear it.
Yeah, and speaking of the kind of the bands that you find kind of pockets with, there's I'm sure that you've heard of them as well. Huntsman from Chicago also is billed as like putting Americana and stuff in their music, but again, it's not in a way that like. Y'all are two completely fucking different bands, but would work on a bill together. I feel like just because of they're more into the almost like Sub Rosa inspired doom, but then they still have these, acoustic guitar passages with these folky layered vocals that sound like mountain music and stuff like that.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
nice.
it's just really cool. So like, not that doom and Americana have been becoming a thing that I've been noticing, but certainly there have been people trying to poke at a few more I don't know, just like Townes Van Zandt or like Merle Haggard influences or
Yeah,
even shit like I'm trying to think of like a more like Roy Orbison or something like that. One of them overall like rock and rollers that work for everybody.
for sure. When like if we're not touring with like a sound engineer, like if I have to like break down in like layman's terms how I want like an engineer to maybe mix bass, I think like on our stage plot it says like mix us with the dynamics of Pink Floyd, the warmth of Black Sabbath, and the twang of Merle Haggard.
Fuck
So,
yeah, dude, I love that.
so if it's like,
Yeah.
just like a good old boy, super long, ponytail, he's been doing it for 35 years, and I can't tell him like obscure, shit that we're probably we're into.
Of
That's
course.
what I'll say, and he'll be like, "Oh, cool." And
I
maybe he's
got
a
you,
little,
brother. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Maybe he's a little disappointed at the end of the set, because maybe it's not quite as paranoid as he wanted.
Yeah.
But he gets it, and so that's kind of the foundation if I got to give it, to a normie,
And speaking of, Merle Haggard and country legends, I think this might be one of my favorite songs on this record, talking about Johnny Cash and Elvis and, this.
Which one are you on?
We're on Carl Perkins' Cadillac.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't really know too much like lyrically the backstory on this. A lot of the DBT songs are all just like Alabama folklore, where it
Yeah,
would be like everything from like football coaches to sheriffs, and I just like that whole kind of country's so good at that storytelling element,
that's
and
exactly what it is. Yes.
yeah, and I feel like Drive By Truckers does that and that's kind of like a little drawn to the depth that kind of came from Isbell's lyrics,
Hmm.
but also love some of the more like topical elements, that maybe
Yeah.
Patterson Hood or Cooley would write as well. So that's what just makes the album feels, so the scope on it feels wide to me. And yeah, that's part of the big reason of enjoying it.
There is a story behind that last song that we listened to. If the person wants to listen to it, they can go and find it out. It's more mythologizing already mythologized country music people. Like, you know, you hear the story about, fuck it, who was it? I think it was Alan Jackson riding his lawnmower to the liquor store because,
Oh,
you
right.
know, he
Yeah,
got
yeah,
his
yeah.
like driver's license. You know, that type of shit where you have these larger than life people like Johnny Cash and Elvis who already are these kind of like almost American gods in a way, right? And then it's just another way of showing this kind of folk story about that when you have a song about John Henry, who is, you know, an American folk legend, kind of, I don't know, in my way, just kind of sees the drive-by truckers kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, putting John Henry and Johnny Cash and Elvis all in the same kind of bucket, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Or it's more just like so much of songwriting is just telling like your own story. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, it made reference to me growing up in a Civil War town. I didn't realize exactly how weird that was to hang on to that until I like left that hometown, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, just because it's like obviously super Confederate, leaning with it being, in the South.
Yeah.
So it's always like, I feel like too often not, whether it be like, yeah, yeah, I get it. You've heard Freebird and Sweet Home Alabama, but there's a lot more to Southern rock that's not just like, oh yeah, I saw that pic from the 70s and they're all like flying, rebel flags and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The
Especially,
stereotypes that come with that, and I feel like Drive By Truckers did a good job of being like, no, but here's like our story and here's our version, and I'm not
yeah.
like making any compromises, but no, that's just a stereotype. Here's how we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's a lot of it is me resonating with these stories because it's in the region that I
Yeah.
grew up in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's probably a lot of that, and whether it's like them talking about like Carl Perkins, or maybe there's like some about Buford, and then but from like my hometown, it was like, oh, Stonewall Jackson,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like, oh, and then this other guy, So it was like probably a lot of crossover from that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And on something that I was thinking about as well on the flip side of that coin is that to kind of get it to something that I know metalheads will definitely be familiar with is just like, you know, you think of the Georgia progressive sludge scene that like Mastodon and Kylesa came out of, you know, all those not all of them, but the bands from around like the early 2000s Georgia, even like Baroness, I believe, came from Lexington, Virginia at first, if I remember correctly, right? And so that kind of Southern Virginia, Georgian thought process of influencing this kind of Southern sludge into stuff has influenced so many other bands that are now kind of referencing back that Southern sludge that may not even be realizing it. So I think that there's something to be said about that, even within the bounds of like the metal scene of the influence of Southern rock that isn't just fucking Leonard Skinner and fucking, you know, Allman Brothers or whatever, getting into the music from the people that are like yourself that either grew up in that area and was around that music or had family members that were into it.
Yeah, like my first job, I worked at a guitar shop in Lexington, Virginia. And yeah, and I would just was restringing banjos and mandolins and acoustic guitars and would like I remember closing up the guitar shop and there would be like world-class pickers. They were just like sitting in there just like jamming.
Hmm.
And to, like think that that wasn't like an influence on my writing would be like very naive,
Yeah.
and very dumb. But then also knowing that like, hey, I know to the bone I'm a heavy-hearted individual when it comes to music. Like
Yeah.
I like it heavy. So if I can combine a little of those two worlds, then that's what we're chasing. But yeah, so exactly. Yeah, definitely Baroness, like Red Album, one of my favorite of that
So
era as
good. Yeah, it's
well.
so good.
Still, we just played in Savannah on this last tour. Still friends with a couple of the guys from Kylesa, like or at least previous members.
Yeah.
Um, Friends with all the Black Tusk dudes. So yeah, there's absolutely a lot of like crossover there, and like, oh, I see what you're doing. You see what I'm doing? Cool. We see that regional sound makes its way into the music, and something that I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And also I just like the fact that, you know, a band like yours is, you know, owning kind of where they're from and the roots that y'all have. And I think that that's also like a key is it never sounds like Bask is just trying to make a country thing or trying to do all this other stuff. And again, that gets back to hammering over all of those parts over
Yes.
and over and over
Yeah.
again to make sure that it
Yeah.
doesn't sound forced and sounds natural. Again, going back to serving the song.
Yeah, yeah. I think the phrase I used was beat the dog shit out of them. And that's
Yeah,
probably
I love
some
that.
weird phrase that my dad gave me when I was young about something. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and so I was going to ask you more along the lines of your openness and acceptingness of music growing up, because I was very much a if it's not metal, it's shit type of person for a really long
Oh,
time.
I had such a narrow vision
Yeah.
then. Yeah, it was like if it wasn't completely brutal. I wasn't really into it.
Mm,
If it wasn't just an onslaught of extreme metal, I was just like, whatever. Obviously, taste started to expand, like, probably like high school, honestly.
yeah.
But definitely like middle school, early high school was just like, nope, that's not heavy. I don't really
Yeah,
listen
I
to
think
it.
all of us go through that phase as a little
Yeah.
bit. I hung on to it a little bit more, but thankfully I opened up a little bit more after that and was like, holy shit, I've been missing out on so much stuff that I like, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And even like for me, like professionally recently, probably in the last like 4 or 5 years, like wanting to find my lane, like even within hip hop, and like
Yeah.
what is like a metalhead or someone who is into something a little outside of the box, like what do I like? And
Yeah.
so yeah, so just like working on that, and even like elements of country, like you mentioned, like kind of that like pseudo outlaw resurgence that came with like Sturgill and Tyler Childers
Hmm.
and even like Charlie Crockett kind of stuff too,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
loving that stuff too. Like Charlie Crockett was the first show I saw coming out of COVID,
Oh,
and
cool.
it just meant so much. I knew I was like lifer, when it comes to like shows and stuff, but having a whole year without it was brutal.
Yeah, it was
Man, it
You
was rough.
forget
It was
just how
rough.
much
Yeah.
that is your outlet and stuff like that too. And it's like the idea for me, because I'm sort of a homebody, and sometimes I'll be like, oh no, I don't want to talk to people today. I don't want anybody to perceive me. But then like not having that option, I was like, fuck, I'll go to even a show that I don't want to go to right now.
Yeah, for sure. My issue is I struggle with like what feels like extreme FOMO, where I'll be like, I don't really want to go out to the show. And then another part of my brain goes, yeah, but what if that band like blows up in the
Yeah.
next like year or two? And then you would be able to say that you got to see them in like a small club. And maybe I even booked that show. So then I'd be able to say, oh, I booked that show in the small club. Now they're like playing arenas or something. And so that voice beats the hell out of me every evening.
Keep listening to it, my friend. Yeah, so this is Danko slash Manuel, an Isbell pen song. And I have to say, even though I'm not historically a big fan of his, this song is really fucking good.
Oh, this one's awesome. This is like
Yeah.
by far like one of my favorite on the records. And I think this is like when you could kind of hear where it's like, okay, this guy could maybe break off and do his own thing. I honestly wish maybe he never did.
Mm.
But I think you could hear in just, his voice and lyrically that he was just solid and knew exactly what he was doing. But yeah, I love this
Yeah,
song.
and it's funny because this song and the last song, actually, which is also really, really fucking
Yes,
good, and probably
exactly.
one of the top song or like most popular songs from this record, from just like looking at some of the numbers and everything like that. Because of that, I did go. And sometime yesterday, I just went to one of the, Jason Isbell Apple Music like essentials or whatever. It was just like, let me go through because it had stuff from the 400 unit, it had stuff from his like new solo album and all of his other stuff. And I was just kind of like picking and choosing and like just 30 seconds here, a couple minutes here, and very much like that song was like there are some of them that felt like that vibe that I'm like, yeah, I could get down with this. And then a couple others that were like, okay, I see why people were gravitating to this, but just for me, it doesn't have the same weight or just it's a little bit too polished, I think, for me on that. But
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Like I think yeah, isn't one of the even names of the new albums like the Nashville Sound or something like that,
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and Yeah, but yeah, the old stuff that and like I said, outfit, but also in his solo stuff, like was it Cover Me Up? Like that song is so good
Mm.
as well. And I feel like he channeled some of that early stuff, like you mentioned, Danko Manuel, and then what ends this album, Goddamn Lonely Love, like whoo, those
Yeah,
songs
dude.
are great. They are
Yeah,
so
dude.
good. When I see that acoustic and that Jackson you got in the background, you a shredder?
I would like to pretend I am. I've
Me
been
too.
playing,
Me
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been playing the same Iron Maiden songs for like 20 years. I can play those real good. Ask me
Nice.
to play some like fucking bar chords or give me a sheet music thing. I have no idea what I'm fucking talking about.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah. No, it's the amount of guitar playing I've been doing over in my 30s has decreased more and more and more. Because like I'll pick up, you're like, oh, I've got to play, let me run through the same stuff that I know all over just to get the mechanics back, and then I'll actually try to learn something new or just fiddle around, and I'll be like, I can't do this anymore. But
Yeah,
little
no,
by
no, I feel
little.
that. It's definitely easy to hit that wall. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm never gonna stop playing, because I know, especially
Uh,
talking with people, sometimes it goes in ebbs and flows and stuff like that.
it's either going to be like arthritis or death that's going to take it from me.
Yeah, there you go, man. How often do you do
So,
you, do you play in a day?
some days I don't play at all. There's like times where I'll go like a whole week and I don't even touch it.
Yeah,
I found that like I can't force it. Like if I'm writing,
exactly. Yeah,
sometimes it's like it's all there and it's just like a wave that I'm riding and I know that I just have to stay locked in and just like boom. But then like sometimes I'll be like, oh, let's just see if I can run it right today. And I'm just like, I just suck. I'm just like I can't do anything.
mm-hmm.
And I just don't force it. And sometimes I set it down and but I'm not yeah, I don't fight it, because like it's not like we're in a position where it's like, oh, we have to do an album every 2.5 years because to tour and do this and record label expectations and we're paying all of our bills off of touring. It's
Yeah,
not like
yeah,
that. So,
yeah,
and the beauty that comes with that is that there's not as much pressure. So if you got, like in this case right now, this new record, if you got 5 or 6 years between a release, it's okay, you
yep,
know. And we write very slowly. We are not a fast writing band, and that's okay with me. I'm all
yeah.
right with that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you're gonna take 5 years to create another turning or like whatever comes after that, like as a music fan and listener of it, I'm happy to do it. Obviously, the sooner the better. Like I'm happy with that, but the idea that like, oh, my favorite band needs to come out with stuff now, feed me with it. It's like take as long as you need to
Yeah.
because it's gonna be good.
No,
Because
I'm
yeah,
a firm believer in quality over quantity.
yeah, yeah,
I'd
dude,
rather have 4 records that I can confidently stand behind than 8 I could only have one foot in.
yeah,
So yeah, I know for me, I got going like pretty young on guitar. I got my first guitar when I was like 7 or 8. And then yeah, mom drove me to guitar lessons when I was like 12 or 13. So I was fortunate enough to have some pretty supportive parents that were like
yeah,
they didn't know the financial irresponsibility of going into the music industry. So I still appreciate their support. But it's
yeah,
absolutely been a roller coaster for not just me, but everyone else in Bass and the sacrifices that are made to have the ability to tour, the ability to take off 2 weeks to go into the studio. But ultimately, at the end of my life, I just want to leave behind a little bit of like a musical legacy. And so Bass kind of all started with kind of just wanted to hear my guitar playing on like vinyl and on a record.
hmm,
And then that was like a big goal. It was a bucket list thing because I just want to hear guitar, like me playing guitar on a record. And then went and put up all these shitty little signs around Asheville that said, I want to start a band. Here's my number. And then that grew, found Scott drums, tried out a variety of people, and then was able to like eventually, got the whole group together, record the first record, got to hear it on vinyl. And I remember when that moment happened, I like cried like a baby because it felt really good. Not only was I holding the tangible thing, but also accomplished like a big like
yeah,
life goal of mine. So
yeah.
to be here now, being like I can hold 4 of them bad boys, like that's like I'm lucky. I'm fortunate. I'm
Yeah,
like,
dude. That led
yeah.
me to a question that I was going to ask as far as like what when you started Bask was the sound of the band something that kind of accidentally happened when you're still trying to figure out what Bask is. Like what did that kind of look like?
Yeah, I would say it was pretty, I would say fairly intentional from the
Okay.
beginning. I just, yeah, just kind of knew that was looking a way to meld those things together. But really it was like adding Zeb, who's other guitarist and vocalist, and then him having like an even like deeper, different background in like folk and indie and country as well. So
Hmm.
it was nice for him and I to like kind of bounce that off of each other and develop things with like Jesse and Scott, who, rhythm section, maybe not as quite as versed, in the background of like, country, Americana, folk. And then probably in the recording of the third record,
Hmm.
we started, jamming with Jed Willis, who plays pedal steel on, three.
Yeah.
And then he went out on tour with us. He did merch, and then he like, drove for us, and we were just like, yeah, all right. And then we're like, you know what? Let's just fucking lean all into this shit. Let's add a pedal steel player who also plays mandolin, guitar, and banjo, like a multi-instrumentalist, and let's just hear for it. Like if you thought that we were posers. Like, guess what? We're not. We've been doing this shit for a decade.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? With
Yeah.
you know, super fortunate Season of Mist sees some value in it. By far, we're obviously not like their biggest or best band on the label, but Will and Gordon over there and Michael
Yeah.
see something in us that we really appreciate.
Yeah, and I appreciate Season Mist too for, because they've got their big bands and they've been a good launching point for a lot of bands that then got really big and then had nowhere to go, but you're like, your Century Medias or your Nuclear Blasts, right? Like those were the options, but they also, with the resources that they have, invest in bands like Bask and other bands that they believe in that maybe don't, quote unquote fit with the sound of the label, but there's something in there that ties it into the greater like heavy universe or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate them for that.
Yeah, for sure. Like we first met them, we were on tour with Weedeater years ago, and we played in Philly, and we knew that because Weedeater's on Season of Mist, so we
Mhm.
knew that all the reps were coming out for that. So we were like, all right, let's get on our A game. And then someone at one point, I was like telling this story, and someone's like, hey, that's Gordon. He's like head of US over at Season of Mist, but he also used to be at Relapse. And I was like, oh, okay, sweet. I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna throw some Southern Charm on him. I'm gonna give him a record. Thanks for coming out. I walk up, I introduce myself, and I go, hey, I just want to give you a record. And he goes, no, I'm good. I don't want one. And I was like, oh shit. All right. Okay. Fair. And then I just like walked away with like a little puppy with like my tail tucked. 4 days after we got back from tour, we get an email from Gordon that's like, hey, we want to sign y'all to Season of Mist. It was great. I just don't take vinyl from bands while they're on tour. So it was like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how that worked was, thanks a lot for Weed Eater for taking us out and, for them to coming out for the Philly show. So now every tour we do, we always try to hit Philly and see that crew and yeah, really appreciate them seeing a value in something that's not traditional to the label.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to shout out High Lung for giving us the opportunity to press this records because we all know that they're actually paying the bill for us. So
Yeah.
I'm being real here. I'm being
Cheers to
real here.
High Lung, everybody. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, a Weed Eater Bask show sounds like an incredible time. Just take 100 milligram gummy and just lose your fucking mind, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
we've been fortunate enough to tour with those guys twice, and they are so much fun and just like so cool and just so down to earth, and it's just all hugs, and it's like it's such
you're
good vibes
telling
with them.
me that a band that sings almost exclusively about being stoners are cool, chill, down to earth people?
That's
I'm
exactly what I'm. That's
shocked.
exactly what I'm. Oh, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that the old slamming a handle or two of whiskey every night isn't a real thing because these two little eyes have seen it. It is a real thing. And yeah, them boys party
Yeah.
way harder than we do. But talk about like such a phenomenal band to tour with and just yeah, they're great. They're great. Like masters of their craft. No damn doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Weedeater. Daddy's Cup is what we're on right now, and I think this is probably another one of my favorites on this record. Given when you talked about the storytelling type of deal, To me, it has this kind of "Devil Went Down to Georgia" narration type of style, where he's just like strumming a guitar at you, and like he's not really singing stuff at you. He's not really like singing songs at you, but more like telling a story. But it's kind of musical, and it follows. It's like so easy to get lost in this tale.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, this one's Patterson Hood, and even like with his solo stuff too, he's definitely like one that I always like looked up to from lyrical and just like a guitar perspective, and honestly, just like kind of how he's outspoken, kind of like a just like a punk rocker would be about his like political stance or things that he feels is important with him, and so many people take the safe road on not alienating like their own crowd. And I love
Yeah.
that, like, fuck you. Like, this is who I am. This is what I do. And if you like it, cool. And if you don't, that's cool too. I don't care. And
Well, yeah.
in a way, like that spirit is, I feel like kind of how Bass operates is like, for the record, we're super fortunate that people like our music, but ultimately, like we're gonna keep doing it. And if people like it, that's great. And if you don't, that's okay. That's okay
Mm.
too. But it's it doesn't plan on stopping.
You mentioned that we haven't gotten into Bask's lyrics as well, as far as like I'm still going through and like taking chunks and stuff like that. But did I read correctly that the Turning is a concept album?
Yeah, this is definitely more of like Zeb's world in regards to
Okay.
lyrical
Yeah.
questions and whatnot. But yeah, absolutely, it is a little more conceptual. Like when we were bringing the collective, lyrical inspiration and how that would play into the art. The like two or three main words was like interdimensional travel.
Mm.
And that was what we inspired, maybe interludes and songs, or maybe the visual reference on the record. So a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of references to elements, like portals and connecting different worlds, and however the listener interprets that to whatever aspects are in their life. Like we're here to encourage that, that's for
Cool.
sure. On Ramble Beyond. That was like like we were all kind of like pseudo obsessed with this podcast called Memory Palace. And it was all
Mm.
these like small little stories throughout, I think it's predominantly American history, that are like long and forgotten. And
Yeah.
kind of found the inspiration in those and given those like another voice and a new breath of life. And it's so funny, like, we'll get like messages like, oh, this song means so much to me, and I can tell that it was about whatever, this like super dynamic, super sentimental moment. And then we're like, nope. Love that for you.
Yeah,
Love
exactly.
it. Love it. So,
It's interesting as far as going back what we were talking about with the like the art and everything, because I had that similar journey as well. I think Bask in general is a band where the listener kind of has to meet the band a little bit halfway, as far as like being patient sometimes and
oh
going
yeah.
back to really figure out like, oh no, there were these, this melody was snuck in here before it ever came out somewhere else, all of those little like things that happen in songwriting. And the bit about the art kind of making sense did click in my brain when I was like listening to it through, because of exactly the the desert landscapes or the mountain landscapes that kind of are imbued in the music, and then of course the big almost like portal in the middle.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And even like, when we were laying out all of the songs, we were like, okay, like, there's like we're a record band for sure. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
how our sets go. We don't really chat a lot. We don't really have a lot of breaks. Like if you've never seen us before, you would be like, "Wait, do you have one song that's 30 minutes?" And they'd be
Hmm.
like, "No, that was actually like four songs, but we wanted to feel, all cohesive, like one long stretch of music." And so even like with laying this out, we were like, "Okay, what what elements make you feel like maybe you're going through a portal?" And so like on turning, like once you flip the record, it like ends with like these little bells and these little things, and we're like, okay, what if that's the sound that you hear that you're in the portal? So maybe when you're flipping the record, the whole concept is like, okay, well maybe this is like the transition in the portal as well.
Mm.
So even just like little nerd shit like that, like all of that's intentional, and we think about all that and like, oh okay, well I see a vision now. I see like a long-haired maiden riding on a horse. Oh, now she's in like the blazing hot desert. What does that visions sound like?
Mm.
What elements can we add to reiterate that? So yeah, a lot of those, and I love like when we get to like nitpick all those little tiny elements in the rehearsal, and like when we get to
Yeah.
dress the skeleton. It's one thing to be like, okay, well here's a group of riffs, but once we start getting to add all the little nuances and you get all those bells and whistles, I love that. You do that first playthrough where we all like nailed it and we were super tight. Like I get like goosebumps every time that happens.
I've heard similar things from other musicians just talking about like it's one thing to play in the rehearsal space and do that, but once you start adding the overdubs and the harmonies and the
Oh, yeah.
whatever else, the extra instruments that the people don't play or the synths or anything like that, just kind of again that magic of the music coming alive.
Oh yeah, the fixins. The
Yeah,
fixins are
the
important.
fixins. Yeah,
The
talking
fixins.
about a good old home Southern meal. Just get all your fixins in,
That's what I'm
gentlemen.
saying. You
Yeah.
ain't wrong. You ain't wrong.
It was funny because I listened to Long Lost Light when it was released as a single, and I was like, wow, that's a really good song.
Sure.
But when I listened to the full record, that song, like, even though I already heard it before, it just like jumped out like I had never heard it before in a way that made kind of sense to me. And the fact that it's like now, anytime that I go back to this song, whether it's in record or just by itself, I am probably going to have that feeling of that realization of just like, like, just being pulled out of whatever you're doing to only focus on the song. And like I said, I don't think that would have happened if it wasn't like you had that whole entire 6 songs and like all of that music leading up to that song.
Yeah, that song's great. That song turned out honestly even better than we thought it was going to. Enough where we
Yeah.
didn't originally think it was going to be a single, but then once we
Mm.
got back the mix and the masters, we were like, "Oh yeah, this has to be a single." It's so good, kind of like shows off like a little bit of our diversity, but
Yeah, like a
in
little
the
bit of
end,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, but then in the end, kind of brings it back, to our roots, because it's like I love when that cello slides in and it gets really heavy, and you're like, how in the fuck did we get here? Like,
Exactly.
how did we
Yes.
get here from there? And yeah, I'm really proud of that one. That one's really good, and
Yeah,
we,
man.
we love it. We won't play it live a lot, but we did for our album release here. And then we brought in the cello player for that as well, and it was like extra, extra special.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, you guys should be proud of that one. I think it's probably my favorite on the record, but again,
Oh,
everything changes. It is like, kind of like a waterbed a little bit with the sentience of the record kind of moves around a little bit.
yeah, yeah, no, that's very true. That's a good analogy. A
Mm.
waterbed,
What?
right?
This is waterbed music, everybody. It's like, what the fuck are you talking
Hell yeah,
about?
we're bringing them back. I know they've been dead since the '90s, but we're bringing back waterbeds. Get ready.
Look Out Mountains, second to last song right here. But bringing back the fucking yeah. This is what I wrote in my notes. Roadhouse, old timey rock and roll, guitarist sleazy and screaming. This is where I could see like the beer cans and bottles
Yes,
being thrown and
like you can you can see the sweat in the song if that makes any sense.
yeah, yeah,
Like you
absolutely,
can see it. You can it's just like this tiny packed out like maybe house party or they're practicing or something, and it's just like it's sloppy, it's fun in like the best way possible. Yeah, and then even the song before it, like "Never Gonna Change," I love that. I've noticed like they'll end their set pretty often with that. I feel like that's kind of like an authoritative like "F you," like nah, this is just like this is what we do.
yeah,
And I feel like I kind of relate to that. Is like, sure, is Southern rock popular? No. I mean, in regards to like within metal music, no. But it's just like that's that's what we do,
yeah.
and that's where we like it. And so we always feel fortunate when people like latch on to that. But I think a lot of people kind of like what you said, where you kind of got to absorb it a little bit because it's like I don't really get that, or like, oh, that drum beat's weird, or like, do those parts even work? Oh wait, on the second listen they do work. And I like that we kind of offer those challenges, and I
Hmm.
think that that's the key to creating longevity in fans.
Yeah,
Is like, sure, we're not taking like the quick road, we're not writing like 3 minute little 4/4 little bangers that are going to go on the radio, but we absolutely have like small groups around the world, of people who are like, I love that, and I feel like we'll just keep doing it, and then hopefully that grows.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are some people, I'm one of them included, that want a journey to, close your eyes and be taken somewhere when they listen to music, or, just like a novel or a TV series or something like that, just wanting to, find something different that you could. Put some time in, and there's a payoff at the end. Like you get to the end of a, TV show series or like the season, right? And there's that, all this stuff that they've been putting in is,
Yeah.
resolved or put it, or there's more cliffhangers, whatever it is. And I feel like this music is like rewarding like that, where there are moments, and it may not be as linear as like, a TV show storyline or something like that, but there are moments where it's like, that wouldn't have happened if there weren't 5 minutes of whatever before that, or if this hadn't done that, or if I hadn't stuck through. And yeah, exactly. Just like there's going to be a market for just about any sort of thing over here. I think um, people, especially in like the heavier and progressive realm, want those payoffs, want to be surprised and taken on a journey, and all of those things. You've talked about several times throughout this whole conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And who knows? Maybe weird sci-fi country metal gets popular in 10 years.
Well, honestly,
You know what I
I'm
mean? Like, who knows? I
seeing.
don't know.
No. You joke, but I'm seeing not exactly like, oh, this is fucking Orville Peck meets Paradise Lost or something like that, right? Nothing like that, but
Right.
but
Not like
even
that.
like you think of a band like Wayfarer, who's like putting this like old timey Western
Yeah.
vibe into their black metal with slide guitars and shit like that, or Spirit World, I think, is probably the closest that comes to that country and that just beat 'em up hardcore fucking in your face thrash type of deal. If you haven't listened to them, you should check them out. They're really fucking
Yeah,
good.
I've seen them a couple times. I'm gonna give Wafer a bunch of kudos because I feel like that they really kind of do a good job blending those two styles
Yeah.
with an aesthetic. Seen Spirit World a couple times. Yes, you look the part, but I'm not hearing it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Good show,
Yeah.
just not what I hoped for, to be honest.
Their newest record is, like, if you haven't listened to it or not, it kind of gets more into that line. I've been talking with some people about it, whereas like their first record was definitely just like, it's a thrash album, right? It's like
Right.
fucking, if you like Napalm Death, Power Trip, Slayer, and Hatebreed, you'll fucking love their first record. And their second one kind of starts to go a little bit, where their newer one, they definitely tried to inject some of that,
Oh, okay. Noted.
saloon type of honky tonk into that, where you can see a little bit more of those sequenced nudie suits in the music a little bit more.
That's what I was missing, so I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, give it a try. It's one of
Yeah.
those things that, exactly, I've heard people talk about exactly what you just said, and other people that are like, Man, I kind of liked it when they had that they weren't all as far in on that." So, which, if you're not pleasing everybody, it means you're doing something right, I think.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
you
That's for
know.
damn sure. Speaking about this song, this is the song where I love this song
I was
so
about to say, is it
much.
time to like grab each other, just fucking burst into tears
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
everything?
saying. That's the sad, drunk writing that I connect with.
Yeah, and it definitely, you can just tell that Isbell, who wrote the song, was a fucking pro drinker from some of the like language that he uses here in the lyrics, as far as like bellying up to the bar and like, stop me if you heard this one before. Man walks into a bar and leaves
I
before
love
his
that one.
ashes hit the floor. Like, oh
I
my
love that one.
God,
That's like
dude.
that's absolutely one of my favorites in that song too. It's
Yeah.
like it's so good. It's such just like a small little detail that it's like, to incorporate into the song and to like, and give that vision to the listener. And it does a really good job painting an image of just we're sad, we're at the bar, we're doing shots, we're washing away our woes. It does really good on it.
Yeah, and the depth to it too, even in just that small line, as far as like, you automatically probably go to like the cigarette ashes before like they go on there floating down, but then also just like the whole like mortality and like what that means. Just, I don't know. This song is one that I am going to be going back to quite a lot, and probably will eventually. I don't know if you've ever accidentally pissed someone off by putting this on the jukebox during a party or something like that. Just, we're
Right.
drinking whiskey and slamming beers, and now all of a sudden we got goddamn Lonely Love on. Like, kick that guy out.
Yeah, no, that stuff definitely like end of the night. All right, get on out of here. It's time. And it's such, and well, yeah, also like it's such a good album ender. Just to reiterate, it would go good at the end
Yes.
of a playlist or, the last song on the jukebox,
It's a perfect album ender.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, man. So there it is, The Dirty South by Drive-By Truckers. Speaking of band or like albums that kind of go with you before, when I first listened to this, I was a little bit nervous because I was like, oh man, I don't really like the vocals and some of this stuff isn't like really where like I want it to be. And it's a long album, man. We got to go through this for an hour. And then, but like the more I listened to it and I am not going to say like, oh my God, I love this fucking album. It's going to go on repeat all the time, but I definitely added songs in this playlist. I
Nice.
got a definite, different respect for Jason Isbell
Mhm.
from listening to his songs through this band than his like previous stuff.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. I have been peeking in at some of the other records around this time, and I know that the Drive-By Truckers have a big fucking discography that is very intimidating if you just go to their Wikipedia page. But I have been finding some stuff that I like from this band, and I think that's probably because of the different songwriters and stuff like that that come in there. That maybe that there's something for everybody in this. But Ray, do you have parting thoughts, final words on the Dirty South?
Yes, I kind of forgot how long this record was as well.
Yeah, it
So,
flew by though.
thank
We had an
you.
amazing conversation though, and
Oh,
the
for
songs are
sure.
good.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate you like diving into that as well. And yeah, this was such like a refreshing take on an interview. And it was just nice like kind of reminiscing about, all the, sentiments that I have with that record and whatnot. So yeah, I really appreciate it. And it was nice getting to know you as well.
Fuck yeah, I'm glad that you love this style. It is a why I try and get people on here is because it is different than just like, well, album's out, let's ask the same 20 questions that you're asking or getting from everyone all over the world.
And thank
I
you. Thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome. I still
Thank you.
do that. Like I can't say that, because
Yeah,
I
it
still
was
do
great.
write for other publications and you got to do what you got to do. But
It was great.
and for me too, like again, I don't know if I would have given this album as big of a chance as I would have if I wasn't trying to, relate it to your music or kind of try and understand, the lyrics or even just like, diving in, let me go over this song one more time or let me just play it again while I'm doing this other stuff. And there's that's what I was going to ask you. So if people who maybe were not familiar with the Drive-By Truckers listen to this and they like it and are like, I do want to explore some more, Southern rock, rural, mountain music that maybe isn't Leonard Skinnerd and the general fucking Southern rock bands that everyone talks about. Where would you point them next?
Yeah, oh gosh, so many options. You could go Lucero, you could go Magnolia Electric Company
Oh
on
yeah, yeah.
something like a newer realm. I've been like really liking some Future Birds kind of stuff. That's another like good Georgia band. Any of that Ryan Adams stuff like Whiskey Town, like
Mm.
God, yeah, like some of that. Yeah, that's a great place, and that's probably all in that like two early 2000s ish alt country slash Southern rock realm and I love leaning into that genre.
Fuck yeah. Well, you heard Ray. Everybody go listen to that shit. Go listen to Drive-By Truckers as well. What was the other one? The fucking Southern is so you have Declaration Day or Decoration Day, and then there's a Southern rock opera or something like that, right?
Yep. I think that's like a two-part album, and I think that whole album is like dedicated to Skinner as well, or at least is
There you
all
go.
about like certain elements of them and their inspiration on Drive-By Truckers throughout the years.
Fuck yeah. So if you are one of the metalheads that are just like really into Skinnerd, which I mean, I can't fault you because the deep cuts of Skinnerd, I have to say, are pretty fucking good.
Oh, dude, like yeah, I'm like heard Freebird a million times,
Of course.
Burnout,
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
obviously Sweet Home, Burnout. But if you like really go back and like find some of them B-sides, like
Dude,
so
rip
good, so
roaring good
good,
fucking
so
times,
good.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there it is, everybody. Go listen to Drive-By Truckers and the other bands that Ray mentioned. And go listen to Bask, The Turning, and all of their other albums. I'm sure that the next time we talk, dude, whether you're coming through Nashville or somewhere else around here, I'll have even more to say about the record, because I think it's going to be one of those things that people just keep finding things that, in the music that they haven't realized even after several years. So congrats on the record, and congrats for getting through it, and surviving the hurricane, and being in the spot we're at now. Give my love to all the lads in the band, and thanks for coming on the show, chatting with me, and we'll see you sometime around the bend, dude.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely, dude. I can promise you that many more beers were had and many more tunes were listened to after that interview. Ray Worth, guitarist of Asheville's Bask. Many, many thanks go out to him for lending his time to the show and also sharing this record with us. Like I mentioned, it wasn't something I immediately clicked with, which got me like a little bit nervous for what we were coming on, but sticking with it definitely let me see the personality and the charm in those songs and made me appreciate them even more. So go check out more from this era of the Drive-By Truckers in Decoration Day and Southern Rock Opera. They have a massive discography, though, so just go ahead and, if you like any of that, feel free to explore at your leisure. But don't forget to check out Ray and his buddies in Bask, as The Turning is out right now via Season of Mist. You enjoy astral projecting with your music and lots of build-ups and payoffs and songs that stretch the bounds of your imagination. Highly, highly recommend the record. And that's all I've got for this episode, my friends. Thank you so much, as always, for watching, for listening, and for supporting. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're watching this on YouTube, and maybe feel free to leave a little cheeky comment below. If you're listening to Words Without Faces, go ahead and send us a line at spinningthewax@gmail.com and leave us a nice review on whatever podcast platform you're using. You can also head over to patreon.com/spinningthewax to support the show directly, or Spinning the Wax on Buy Me a Coffee if you'd like to buy me a coffee or a beer. I am not picky. Massive thank you to those of you that are already supporting the show. I love you immensely, and you know exactly who you are. We will be back in a couple of weeks, too, which is what I think they are, when Brady Deeprose from England's Conjurer comes on to spin a record from one of the great progressive bands of our time, Opeth. That's then, everybody. Until then, stay safe, stay sane, stay heavy, and stay puffed. See you on the other side, everybody.